In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, where maple trees whispered secrets to the wind and porch lights flickered like hesitant stars, Emily Harper first held her son. It was a crisp autumn morning in October, the kind where the air carried the faint promise of rain, and the world outside the hospital window seemed impossibly vast and indifferent. Noah, named for the ark that carried life through stormer, arrived not with a triumphant wail, but a soft, stuttering gasp that twisted Emily's heart like a knife. He was perfect in his imperfection. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. With a tuft of chestnut hair that curled damply against his scalp and eyes the color of storm clouds, gray-blue and fathomless. The nurses swaddled him in a blanket striped in soft lavender and cream. A hat of pale rose slipping over his tiny forehead like a crown too heavy for such a small prince. Emily traced the delicate curve of his cheek with a trembling finger, her own face flushed from 18 hours of labor. "My Noah," she murmured, her voice a fragile thread in the sterile hum of the delivery room. David, her husband of 3 years, stood beside her. His broad shoulders slumped in exhaustion, one hand gripping the bedrail as if it were the only anchor in a sea of uncertainty. But perfection shattered in the pediatric ward the next day. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a cardiologist with silver-streaked hair and eyes sharpened by 2 decades of mending broken hearts, delivered the news with the gentleness of a surgeon's scalpel. "It's a congenital defect," she explained, her voice steady as she pointed to the echocardiogram on her tablet. "A small hole in the ventricular septum, the wall between Noah's heart chambers, a ventricular septal defect, or VSD. It's not uncommon, and with monitoring, it should close on its own by his 1st birthday. But his heart is working overtime right now. Any prolonged stress, crying, overheating, even a cold could strain it further. Keep him calm, Mrs. Harper. Calm is key." Emily nodded numbly, her arms cradling Noah as if he were spun glass. David squeezed her shoulder, his calloused hand rough from years as a mechanic at the local garage, pouring silent strength. "We'll manage," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. They always managed. From the shotgun wedding in a rainy courthouse when Emily was 22, to scraping by on David's overtime and her part-time shifts at the library, they'd built a life on grit and quiet devotion. But this was a shadow neither had anticipated. The first weeks blurred into a haze of midnight feedings and fragile silences. Willow Creek's autumn deepened, leaves carpeting the streets in fiery reds and golds. But inside, the Harpers' modest 2-story home on Elm Street, time stretched like taffy sticky, unending. Noah's cries were not the lusty demands of a healthy newborn, but sharp, ragged bursts that escalated into coughing fits. Each one rattled his tiny chest like a bellows straining against rusted hinges. His lips paling to a ghostly white, his breaths coming in wet, desperate hitches. Emily would scoop him up, heart-hammering, murmuring, "She, little one, Mama's here. Breathe for me, please. Just breathe." She'd rock him in the glider by the window, the room lit only by the soft glow of a nightlight shaped like a crescent moon, her nightgown damp with his tears and hers. David tried. God, he tried. He'd take the 2 a.m. shift some nights, pacing the nursery with Noah bundled against his chest, humming off key tunes from his own childhood old country ballads about lost loves and open roads. But exhaustion carved hollows under his eyes, and frustration simmered beneath his skin like oil in a hot pan. "He's got to learn to self-soothe him," he'd mutter one dawn, handing off a fussy Noah after an hour of futile rocking. "We can't hold him every second. Kids need boundaries." "Boundaries?" Emily's voice cracked, sharp as splintered wood. She was bone-tired, her dark hair tangled in a messy bun, circles bruising the fair skin beneath her hazel eyes. "He's 4 weeks old. David, his heart can't handle boundaries. If you heard that cough like he's drowning in his own breath, you wouldn't say that." Noah stirred in her arms, his small fist curling against her collarbone, and she softened, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "It's okay, baby. Mama's got you." David turned away, rubbing the back of his neck, the garage grease still faintly etched into his knuckles. "Maybe you're too soft on him." "Real parenting's tough love sometimes." The words hung in the air, heavy as lead, and Emily felt them lodge in her chest like shrapnel. Too soft? After carrying him through nausea and swollen ankles, through the terror of that first ultrasound confirming the defect, she bit her tongue, but the doubt festered, a quiet poison. It was on one such night, the 5th week bleeding into the 6th, that Whiskers entered the fray. Whiskers wasn't always theirs, not in the way Noah was, woven from their blood and dreams. He'd appeared on their doorstep a year prior. A scrawny tabby with fur the color of weathered oak, striped in tabby bands of black and brown, and eyes like polished amber that held secrets older than the hills. Emily had found him huddled under the porch during a thunderstorm, ribs sharp as piano keys, a notched ear from some street skirmish. Poor thing, she'd cooed, offering a saucer of milk that he lapped with cautious dignity. David grumbled about strays. We got enough mouths to feed, but relented when Whiskers curled up on the welcome mat like he owned the place. Purring a low rumble that vibrated through the floorboards, Whiskers became a fixture, lounging on sun-warmed windowsills, batting at dust motes, greeting Emily at the door with a figure-8 weave around her ankles. He was independent, aloof even, but with an undercurrent of fierce loyalty, once chasing off a raccoon twice. His sighs from the backyard with arched-back hisses and slashing claws. Emily often joked he was her shadow, a silent companion through the loneliness of David's long shifts. But that night, as thunder rumbled distantly and rain pattered against the nursery window, Whiskers became something more. Emily had collapsed into the rocking chair after another marathon of cries, her head lolling against the cushioned back, eyelids heavy as lead. Noah's wails had crescendoed into a symphony of distressed sharp inhales, choking coughs that left him limp and gasping. The monitor on the dresser beeped erratically, a digital heartbeat mocking her failure. "Please, Noah," she whispered, lifting him to her shoulder, his body hot and slick with sweat. "Settle, my love." "Mama can't. I can single, ... double." Her voice broke, tears carving hot paths down her cheeks. From the shadowed corner of the room, where the laundry basket overflowed with onesies and burp cloths, came a soft thump. Whiskers leaped onto the changing table with feline grace, his tail flicking once before he vaulted to the crib's edge. Emily startled, half-reasing. "No, Whiskers, get down." But he ignored her, slipping over the railing like smoke, landing beside Noah with barely a rustle of the fitted sheet. What happened next defied the exhaustion-clouded corners of her mind. Noah's cries faltered, then ceased altogether. His coughs dissolved into a series of soft, shuddering sighs. His tiny chest still heaving moments, agoizing into a rhythm as steady as a metronome. Whiskers circled once, twice, then settled against the baby's side, his warm flank pressing gently into Noah's swaddled form. One striped paw, pads rough from outdoor adventures, draped lightly over Noah's belly, rising and falling with each breath, the cat's eyes half-lidded in contentment, fixed on Emily for a heart-baiten amber gleam in the dim light before closing. And then the purring began. It wasn't the polite trill of a contented house cat, but a deep, resonant thrum, like the engine of an old ship cutting through fog. The vibration seemed to seep into the air, into the wood of the crib, into Emily's very bones. Noah's face, flushed and tear-streaked, softened. His mouth parted in a milky yawn, and he slipped into sleep so profound it bordered on enchantment. No tremors, no hitches, just peace, pure and unearned. Emily's breath caught, her hand frozen midway to the crib. "Whiskers, what are you? ... She leaned closer, heart pounding, not with fear, but a wild, blooming wonder. The room smelled of baby powder and rain-damp earth from the cracked window, but now overlaid with the faint, musky warmth of fur. Tears welled anew, but these were not of despair. For the first time in weeks, Noah breathed without effort, his lips a healthy rose rather than ash. David found them like that 20 minutes later, shuffling in from the hallway in his threadbare robe, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He finally down. His gaze landed on the crib, and his face contorted shock, then fury. "Jesus Christ, Emily, a cat in the crib? With our son?" He lunged forward, arms outstretched to scoop up the intruder. But Emily was there first, blocking him with her body, her voice a fierce whisper. "Look at him, David. Just look." She pointed, trembling. Noah slumbered on, oblivious, his chest a gentle bellows under Whiskers' paw. The purring filled the space between them, a living hum that dared contradiction. David's jaw worked, his green eyes usually so steady flashing with the storm of a man who'd lost control. This is insane. What if he rolls over? Smothers him? Or scratches God? His face is right there. And with the heart thing? Emily, you're gambling with his life. His voice rose, edged with the raw edge of his own fear, the fear of a father who'd already buried a dream of normalcy. But Emily held her ground, the wonder in her eyes hardening into resolve. He's not gambling, David. He's helping. Listen to that breathing. No coughs, no shaking. For once, he's safe. She met his stare, unflinching. If you take him away now, you'll wake Noah, and we'll be back to square one. David's hands balled into fists at his sides, the veins in his forearms standing out like cords. He wanted to argue, to bellow about responsibility and risks. About the articles he'd skimmed on his phone during lunch breaks, cats and SIDS, toxoplasmosis, a dozen invisible threats. But the sight of his son, pink-cheeked and serene, chipped at his certainty. With a guttural exhale, he turned on his heel and stormed out, the door clicking shut like a verdict. Emily sank to the floor, back against the crib, listening to the duet of breaths human and feline, intertwined. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming a lullaby on the roof. In that moment, amid the shadows and the storm, she felt a spark of hope, fragile as a moth's wing. Whiskers had chosen them, or perhaps they had chosen him, long before this night. And now, in the nursery's hush, he'd chosen Noah. The days that followed were a delicate dance on a knife's edge balm for the soul, barbs for the spirit. By day, Emily navigated the mundane miracles of new motherhood, burping Noah over her shoulder while sipping lukewarm coffee, folding tiny socks that smelled of lavender detergent, stealing glances at the calendar marking weeks since birth. Willow Creek stirred around Hertha, mailman whistling Sweet Caroline as he stuffed flyers into the box. Mrs. Abernathy next door, tending her prize-winning roses with gloved hands and pursed lips. But beneath the surface normalcy, Whiskers wove himself into the fabric of their lives. Each evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the sky in bruised purples, the ritual began. Emily would settle Noah in his crib, the mobile of woodland animals spinning lazy circles above, foxes and owls in soft felt. A gift from her sister Lila, Whiskers would materialize from wherever he'd spent his hours, the sun patch in the living room, or the cool shade under the porch swing, padding silently across the oak floors. He'd pause at the nursery door, amber eyes assessing, then leap with the precision of a watch spring, curling against Noah's side, paw on belly. The purring would commence a steady bass note that lulled the baby into depths of sleep, unbroken by coughs or whimpers. It worked, night after night. Noah's health bloomed in subtle strokes, his coughs spaced further apart, like punctuation in a sentence growing less frantic, his cheeks gaining a flush that spoke of oxygen plentiful and unlabored. Emily watched, mesmerized, jotting notes in a worn journal. Night 7, slept for hours straight. No episodes. She researched on her phone during Noah's daytime naps, fingers flying over screens, feline purring frequency healing, animal-assisted therapy infants. Articles popped up, studies from universities in Sweden and Japan. Tales of service cats detecting seizures, vibrations at 25 to 50 hertz promoting bone growth and pain relief. It wasn't magic, she told herself. It was science, wrapped in fur and instinct. But science offered no shield against the world's judgments. Willow Creek was a place of tidy lawns and tighter tongues, where gossip flowed freer than the creek after spring thaw. It started small, Mrs. Abernathy. Peering over the fence one afternoon, as Emily hung laundry, her voice carrying on the breeze. "Heard your little one's got that heart trouble? Poor dear," in letting the cat in the crib. "My Doris read online cats steal a baby's breath, you know. Smother 'em right in their sleep." Emily's cheeks burned, but she forced a smile, clipping a onesie to the line. "Whiskers is family, Mrs. A. He's gentle. The whispers multiplied. At the grocery store, old Mr. Patel at the checkout clucked his tongue while scanning her formula. Saw your tabby prowling the yard. Keep him away from the babe, eh? My grandson in Chicago vet said cats carry all sorts. Emily nodded mutely. Loading bags into her beat-up Honda, the weight of unseen eyes pressing on her shoulders. Even Leela, her younger sister, flew in from Seattle for a weekend visit. Her suitcase stuffed with organic swaddles and essential oils. Lila was the golden child, 30, single, thriving as a graphic designer. Always with a TED Talk recommendation or a wellness app to share. The confrontation came on Lila's second night over takeout Thai in the kitchen, Noah dozing in his bassinet nearby. Whiskers lounged on the counter, tail swishing lazily as he eyed the shrimp pad see you. This is reckless, Lila said, setting down her fork with a clink. Her blue eyes mirrored Emily's, but sharper, less shadowed flashed concern laced with superiority. A cat with a newborn? Especially one with VSD. Germs M. Toxo. What if he claws him? Or worse, triggers an allergy that stresses his heart. She leaned forward, voice dropping to that big sister cadence Emily knew, to well part lecture, part love. Emily's fork paused midway to her mouth, noodles dangling like forgotten prayers. You haven't seen it, Lila. The way Noah quiets. It's like Whiskers knows. His purring, it vibrates right through him. The coughs stop. He sleeps. Her words tumbled out, defensive. Laced with the desperation of someone who'd memorized heart rates like poetry. Lila's brow furrowed, a line etching between perfectly arched brows. You're projecting, sis. Grief's got you grasping at straws. Remember, Mom? After Dad died, she clung to that old locket like it could bring him back. The words landed like a slap, Lila. Ever the rationalist, invoking their father's aneurysm 5 years prior. The one that left Emily changing bedpans in hospice while Lila grieved from afar. Emily's eyes stung. This isn't grief. It's real. David's seen it too. He doesn't fight me anymore. A lie by omission. David still seethed in silence, his arguments reduced to grunts over breakfast, his touches tentative like he feared breaking her further. Lila sighed, reaching across the table. I love you, Em. But love isn't blind. You're a mom now, tough calls. What if something happens? Social services, or worse? She glanced at Noah, her expression softening. He's beautiful. Don't risk him on a hunch. That night, after Lila's rental car hummed away down Elm Street, Emily curled on the living room couch, Whiskers a warm weight on her lap. Noah slept soundly upstairs, the monitor's green light a beacon. Am I wrong? She whispered to the cat, scratching behind his notched ear. Whiskers tilted his head, purring low, his amber gaze steady. No answers, but comforter, vibration that seeped into her ribs, easing the knot of doubt. She wasn't alone. Not entirely. David's silence cracked the next morning. He came in from the garage reeking of motor oil and regret, his flannel shirt untucked, face smudged with grease. He started, hovering in the kitchen doorway as she pureed sweet potatoes for Noah's first solids, doctor proved. In tiny, heart-safe portions. About the cat. I get you're tired, scared, but this, it's not sustainable. What if the doc finds out? They could report us for neglect. Emily turned from the sink, spoon in hand, the orange mush dripping like tears. Neglect. For letting him help? David's been distant since the hospital late nights at the shop, beers with the guys instead of bedtime stories. Now this. David, he's thriving. Look at him, pink cheeks. No blue spells in days. If that's neglect, what is ignoring that? His face hardened, the lines around his mouth deepening like cracks in dry earth. Thriving, or just luck? You're betting our son's life on a damn stray. The word stray landed like an accusation. Dredging up Whiskers' origins, the rain-soaked bundle, Emily had nursed back from the brink while David worked doubles to cover vet bills he never asked for. Whiskers isn't a stray, he's ours. And if you can't see that, maybe you're the one not seeing our son. The words escaped before she could cage them, sharp as shears. David flinched, then turned, grabbing his keys from the hook. The front door slammed, the echo reverberating through the house like a heartbeat skipped. Emily sank to the tile, pureed carrots forgotten, sobs racking her as Whiskers twined around her ankles. Upstairs, Noah stirred faintly on the monitor, but no cries came. Just the soft pad of paws and that purring, a lifeline in the gathering storm. Week 7 brought a false spring to Willow Creek daffodils, pushing through soil like hopeful fingers. The air sweet with the scent of thawing earth. Emily clung to the routine, a fragile scaffold against the creeping isolation. Mornings were for park walks, Noah bundled in a sling against her chest. Whiskers trailing behind on a harness she'd bought online, a ridiculous contraption of nylon and bells. That made him look like a reluctant explorer. The other moms at the playground eyed her sidelong, their toddlers tumbling in the mulch while they sipped lattes from reusable cups. Cute kitty, one ventured, a blonde named Tessa with a yoga-toned ponytail. But with the baby? Bold. Emily smiled tightly, bouncing Noah as he cooed at a passing squirrel. He's good with him. Calms the fussies. Tessa's laugh was light, but her eyes flicked to Noah's chest, where the monitor's wire peeked from his onesie. Rumors had legs in Willow Creek. David buried himself in work. The garage's clang of wrenches and rev of vengeance a symphony of avoidance. He came home late, smelling of transmission fluid and the faint hop of craft IPAs from O'Malley's pub. There. Conversations dwindled to logistics. Bills on the counter. Noah's 6-month shots Tuesday, the intimacy of their pre-baby days reduced to echoes. Emily missed the man who'd proposed on a blanket under the stars. A ring from his grandmother's estate glinting in firefly light. Now he slept on the couch, claiming the bed was too hot, his snores a wall between them. The first real fracture came on a Tuesday, the 8th night of unbroken peace. Emily woke to the monitor's sudden silence, not the soft susurrus of breath, but void. Her heart lurched, propelling her from bed in a tangle of sheets. The nursery door creaked open to darkness, the nightlights glow, casting long shadows. Noah lay still in the crib, his blanket pooled around him, chest immobile. Lips blue as ink, eyes closed in unnatural repose. "No," Emily gasped. The word a prayer and a curse. She lunged to the crib, scooping him up, his body limp as a rag doll. "Noah, breathe, baby, breathe." Her fingers fumbled for his chest. Pressing in the rhythm drilled into her during prenatal classes, 2 breaths, 30 compressions. 1, 2, 3. Her own lungs burned, tears blurring the room. Whiskers leaped to the dresser, yowling a raw, guttural sound that pierced the panic. David. Her scream tore through the house. Footsteps thundered from the stairs, David bursting in shirtless, hair wild. "Call 911. He's not breathing." David's face drained of color, phone already in hand. "Yes, our infant, heart defect, stopped breathing Elm Street. Hurry." His voice cracked on the address, eyes locked on Emily's frantic compressions. "They're coming, Métier. 8 minutes. Hold on, buddy. Hold on. 8 minutes. An eternity." Emily's arms ached, her mind a whirlwind of what-ifs, VSD widening under strain. Oxygen deprivation starving his brain. "Come back to me," she begged, sealing her mouth over his, willing life into his lungs. Whiskers paced the crib's edge, tail lashing, then jumped down, circling her feet with insistent meows. In desperation, she laid Noah back in the crib, the sheet cool against his skin. Whiskers was there in an instant, nosing the baby's cheek with rough urgency. Then the purring, not the gentle lullaby, but a thunderous roar, body vibrating like a tuning fork struck hard. He pressed his flank to Noah's side, paw splayed over the still chest, the rumble traveling through fur and flesh. Seconds, stretched 5, 10, 20. Emily held her breath, David's pacing a metronome of dread behind her. Then a miracle. Noah's chest hitched, a shallow gasp escaping blue lips. Color crept back, pink to his cheeks, rose to his mouth. His eyes fluttered, unfocused but alive, a mule bubbling from his throat. "Oh God," David breathed, collapsing to his knees beside the crib. He's breathing. The paramedics arrive minutes later, sirens wailing like banshees, bursting in with bags and monitors. They found a pink-faced infant mewling softly, a tabby cat purring beside him, and parents shell-shocked into silence. Vitals stabilizing the lead tech. A burly woman named Carla, with a no-nonsense braid, announced after hooking up the oxygen sensor. O2 at 96% and climbing. Heart rate steady at 140. What happened here? Emily, voice hoarse, recounted the silence, the CPR, the cat. Carla's eyebrows rose, but she nodded professionally. Apnea episode common, with cardiac kids under stress. Good you knew compressions? We'll transport to St. Mary's for observation. The ER was a blur of beeps and 4 drips. Dr. Vasquez summoned at dawn with furrowed brows. Tests ran EKG blood work, echo confirming the VSD unchanged. A scare, she concluded, as sunlight slanted through blinds, but he's bouncing back. Keep the calm environment. And the cat. Interesting. Some studies on pet therapy for pediatric stress. Bring him in for a check if this continues. David said nothing on the drive home, knuckles white on the wheel. Noah dozed in his car seat. Whiskers crated beside him, a precaution after David's muttered no chances. At home. As Emily tucked Noah in, David lingered in the doorway. That purr, it was like a jump start. His voice was gruff, wonder warring with residual fear. Emily nodded, exhaustion etching lines on her face. He saved him, David. Our boy David crossed the room, pulling her into a hug that smelled of hospital antiseptic and home. I know. I'm sorry I doubted. But in his eyes, Emily saw the fracture lines trust mended, but brittle. Word spread, as it does in small towns. Mrs. Abernathy baked lemon bars for the poor lamb, but her note read, prayers for wisdom. Tessa at the park pulled Emily aside, heard about the scare. The Catrili. Emily's defenses rose, but she shared the story, voice steady. Tessa's eyes widened. Wild. My vet says purring's like a massage, but not all reactions were kind. Lila called that evening, voice tight over speakerphone, as Emily nursed Noah. Emily, this is what I meant. The cat's a liability. What if next time it's not so lucky? It's been lucky every time, Emily snapped, switching Noah to the other side. Luck? Or something more? Lila's sigh crackled through the line. You're isolating yourself. David's pulling a Y, can hear it. Come visit me in Seattle. Get perspective. The call ended with eye looves that felt like goodbyes. Emily stared at the phone, Whiskers headbutting her knee for attention. Perspective? Was that what she needed, or was it faith? As October waned, the nights grew crisp, frost etching patterns on windows like lace. Noah's health charted a tentative ascent, coughs rare, weight gained steady, his smiles gummy and disarming. Whiskers remained the constant, his presence a talisman. But shadows lengthened in the Harper home, fed by unspoken griefs. David's distance wasn't just fatigue. Emily discovered it one afternoon, rummaging for clean socks in his dresser. Tucked in a sock drawer, beneath a stack of faded tees, was a crumpled pamphlet from the hospital. Grief support for perinatal loss. Her breath hitched. Perinatal loss. Noah was here, alive. But the date 2 years ago, their first pregnancy, the one that ended in miscarriage at 12 weeks. They'd named her Hope in whispers, buried the ache under wedding plans and garage expansions. David had never spoken of it, channeling pain into overtime, into fixing what broke. That night, as Whiskers purred Noah to sleep, Emily confronted him in the kitchen, pamphlet in hand. Why didn't you tell me? That you're still hurting? David's back was to her, rinsing dishes with mechanical precision. Water drummed in the sink, drowning his pause. What good's talking? She's gone. Noah's here flawed, but here. I can't fix his heart any more than I could fix. ... Double quotes he trailed off, sponge clenching in his fist. You think I don't hurt too? Emily's voice rose, cracking. Every cough, every blue lip, pits her ghost in the room. But Whiskers, he's helping us hold on. Why fight that? David turned, suds dripping from his hands, eyes red-rimmed. Because it's not me doing it. I'm his dad, should be me calming him, not some flea-bitten stray. The bitterness spilled, raw and unfiltered. I feel useless, Em. Like I'm failing you both. The admission hung, a bridge between chasms. Emily crossed to him, wrapping arms around his waist, the pamphlet crinkling between them. You're not failing. You're here. And Whiskers, he's not replacing you. He's part of us. They stood like that, water running forgotten, until Noah's monitor chirped a soft coo. Upstairs, Whiskers' purring bridged the gap, a reminder that healing came in layers. But external storms brewed. A knock came midweek, sharp as judgment. Emily opened the door to Officer Ramirez, badge glinting in the porch light, accompanied by a social worker named Ms. Thorne 50s, severe bun, clipboard clutched like a shield. Ma'am, we received a report, Ramirez said, voice neutral. Concerning the welfare of your infant. Exposure to household pets in the sleep area. Emily's stomach plummeted. Report? From who? Mrs. Abernathy's roses loomed in the yard, accusatory. Thorne flipped a page. Anonymous. Standard protocol for cardiac cases. May we see the child? David arrived home minutes later, alerted by Emily's frantic text, his face thunderous. They toured the nursery spotless, Whiskers exiled to the living room with a toy mouse. Noah burbled happily, oblivious. Thorne noted the monitor, the gated crib, the lack of pet hair. Impressive setup, she conceded. But guidelines recommend no shared sleep spaces with animals. It's supervised, as Emily pleaded, voice steady, despite the tremor in her hands. And it's helping his condition, calms his episodes. Ramirez exchanged glances with Thorne. We'll note it. Follow up in 2 weeks? Keep records of any incidents. The door closed, but the chill lingered. David paced the living room, Whiskers watching from the couch with wary eyes. This is what I meant, Mem. People think we're nuts. Or worse, unfit. Emily whirled, fire in her veins. For trusting what works? For loving our son enough to try? David stopped, deflating. I know, but what if they take him? Tests Foster, they won't. She pulled him down beside her, Whiskers inserting himself between, purring tentatively. We'll document everything. Journal, videos, the doctor's notes. That night, Emily set up her phone on a tripod, recording the ritual. Whiskers' leap, the curl, the purr, Noah's sigh. David's hand found hers in the dark, squeezing. A truce, fragile, but real. Whiskers' backstory unraveled like a pulled thread during week 9. Emily, scrolling vet records for the social worker's visit, covered the microchip scan from his intake. Registered to the Ellis family, 3 miles away in the Old Mill district. A quick search revealed the obituary Marcus Ellis, 68. Heart attack 6 months prior. His widow, Beatrice, had moved to assisted living, rehoming pets in haste. Emily drove to the facility that afternoon, Noah in his carrier, Whiskers' harness dangling from the rear view like a talisman. Beatrice was frail, white hair haloed by a window overlooking a garden, but her eyes lit with recognition at the tabby's name. Whiskers? Oh, my Marcus called him that for the way he'd sneak treats Whisker quick. She stroked Noah's cheek, voice quavering. Marcus had congestive heart failure, you know. End stages. Whiskers would sleep on his chest every night, purring like a motor. Doc said it eased the fluid buildup, the strain. Feline physiotherapy, he joked. Emily's throat tightened. It helped? His heart? Beatrice nodded, tears glistening. Extended his time with us by months, they figured. That cat. He senses weakness. Lies right on it, vibrates the pain away. She pressed a photo into Emily's hand, Marcus in a recliner. Whiskers sprawled across his chest, both at peace. Driving home, Emily replayed the words, hope blooming fierce. Whiskers wasn't random. He was a healer, drawn to broken hearts like a compass to true north. She shared the story with David over dinner pot roast, slow-cooked to tenderness. Noah in his high chair smearing peas with chubby fists. David's fork paused, the tail sinking in. So he's done this before? Saved a man, seems like. Emily watched him, gauging. Noah's not so different. Tiny heart, big fighter. David set down his utensils, reaching for Noah's hand. The baby grasped his finger, cooing. Guess I owe you one for a ball. That night, for the first time, David lingered in the nursery, watching Whiskers settle. No words, but his hand rested on Emily's shoulder, warm and sure. Lila visited again near month's end, skepticism tempered by the ER tale. She watched a recording, brow furrowed. Okay, that's eerie. The sync his breathing matches the purr. Over tea, she admitted, I was wrong to push. Mom guilt's real. Emily hugged her, the fracture mending. Stay for the appointment tomorrow. See for yourself, Lila agreed, and as they clinked mugs, Whiskers wove between their legs, purring approval. The eve of the 30-day checkup brought the tempest. David came home early, face ashen, overalls streaked with uncharacteristic haste. Boss let me off, thought we'd do family night. But his eyes darted, avoidance in every line. Emily sensed it, the undercurrent. Everything okay at the shop? He nodded too quickly, scooping Noah for a bounce. Yeah, just missed this. Dinner was strained lasagna bubbling over, conversations circling weather and teething. Noah fussed midway, cries escalating to coughs. Emily reached for him, but David waved her off.
I got it.
Dad time. In the living room, he rocked Noah, humming that old ballad. But the cries peaked, chest heaving, lips paling. Panic flickered in David's eyes. He glanced at the stairs, where Whiskers waited. Come on, buddy. For Daddy? The cough racked Noah, a wet rattle. David faltered, whispering. She was there, Whiskers in her arms. Let him help. The cat leaped to the couch, curling against Noah mid-cry. Purr sigh, calm. David's shoulders sagged, relief warring with shame. Tried. God, I tried. Emily knelt beside them, hand on his knee. You did? But we're a team. You, me, him, Noah, all of us. He pulled her close, tears hot on her hair. I love you. All of you. Scared shitless. But, ... Yeah. The moment shattered, with a knock insistent. Official. Ms. Thorne again. Ramirez in tow, faces grim. Follow-up, unannounced. Reports of continued pet exposure. David rose. Noah still cradled with Whiskers. Officers, it's under control. See? He gestured the peaceful tableau. Thorne's pen scratched notes. Documentation? Emily fetched the journal. Videos, Beatrice's photo, an affidavit emailed that morning. Vet checked, flea-free. Doctors aware. Ramirez scanned the file, nodding. Looks solid. But one more incident understood. David cut in, voice steel. We're careful. Because we love him. The door closed, tension ebbing. Leela, who'd arrived early, poured wine. You two warriors. That night, the nursery hummed with purrs and breaths, a family knit tighter by trial. The pediatrician's office smelled of antiseptic and apple juice. Toys scattered like colorful landmines in the waiting room. Dr. Vasquez promoted to primary since the UG greeted them with a warm handshake, her tablet glowing with Noah's chart. Lila hovered in the corner, camera ready for proof. Emily settled Noah on the exam table. His lavender onesie crisp, Rose had askew. David stood sentinel, arm around her waist. Whiskers waited in a carrier by the door, cleared for the visit after Emily's plea. Dr. Vasquez listened to Noah's chest with her stethoscope, frown deepening into delight. Well, she said, setting it aside. Last visit he was underweight, pale, lungs laboring like a marathoner at mile 20. Oh, 2 dips, heart murmur loud as thunder. Emily's pulse quickened, and now the doctor smiled. Full wattage. Remarkable. Weight up 20%, color robust, lungs clear as a bell. Murmurs softened, VSD, closing ahead of schedule. Breathing. Textbook perfect. She eyed them, expectant. What changed? Silence, then Emily. Our cat. Whiskers. He sleeps with him. Purrs against his chest. Dr. Vasquez's eyebrows arched, but no ridicule. The tabby? Interesting. She pulled up a study on her tablet vibrational therapy. Per frequencies 20 to 150 Hz mimicking ultrasound for tissue repair. Not pseudoscience. We've seen it in oncology pets, reducing cortisol in kids. For cardiac. Rare, but the warmth, rhythm it, stabilizes autonomic response. Less crying, less strain. David exhaled. A dam breaking. So it's real? Not luck? Evidence-based luck, she chuckled. But test the catalogies, parasites. If clear, you've got an adjunct therapist on pause. Lila whooped, filming the grin on Noah's face. Outside, in the parking lot, David lifted Emily off her feet, spinning her as Whiskers meowed from the carrier. You were right. All along, tears streamed. We were right. Together. Homecoming was a quiet triumph. Social services closed the case with a commendation. Innovative intervention. Mrs. Abernathy left a catnip toy on the porch, anonymous but forgiven. Lila stayed a week, designing a Whiskers wellness journal app for other parents. David opened up over fireside talks, the miscarriage's scar, his fear of inadequacy. Emily shared her doubts, the nights she'd cried into Whiskers' fur. They grieved together, healing in tandem. Noah thrived first roll at 3 months, Babbles at 4. Whiskers remained guardian, but David took shifts. Reading bored books with exaggerated voices, his deep chuckle joining the purrs. One winter night, snow blanketing Willow Creek like forgiveness. Emily watched from the doorway, David in the glider, Noah on his chest, Whiskers wedged between. Purrs and heartbeats synced, a symphony of survival. Sometimes, she whispered to the dark, love arrives on silent pause. And in that room, faith took root not blind, but earned in fur and fragile breaths. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.